Yeah.
And we're live.
We're live.
Welcome to week 4, and we're going to do chapter 4 of the My First Bitcoin Diploma, My First Bitcoin Diploma in English.
Yes. Before we're going to start chapter 4, though, we just the class exercise from last week in chapter 3, the last class exercise, because there was 2, so the last one, we did do a couple of mistakes. So we want to go through that first before we go into chapter 4.
Yep.
But welcome, everybody. Please, say hi. If you've got any questions, we will go through them at the end. This is a shorter chapter, to be honest. So, and there's no videos to watch. So please say hi. Any questions? Thumbs up to make sure we know that everything's not working or you can't hear. Liam and John are here again. You guys are amazing.
Yes.
We love it.
Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody that turns up and checks this out. Do remember, this is a really early version of the diploma. We appreciate everything that the My First Bitcoin team are doing. We're talking to them several times during the week about what happened and what we want to do for the next version.
Yes.
So this will change. So if anybody is coming to this at a later date, things may have changed. And we may do this again in, 6 or 12 months, depending on how much it changes. But it's an evolution. It's an open source document. So don't be discouraged if you see anything. And remember, do share this. That's what it's all about.
And extraordinary. Yes, John, we are all extraordinary. Thank you. That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to go through that last week's class exercise. Can you?
Not yet. We're going to do
not yet. Okay,
we're going to do some housekeeping, as we say.
Sorry.
All right. So we have our website where we do put a YouTube playlist, and we also have a link to each week. So njelsalvador.com, links in the description down below. You can go sign up there right now, because there is a form for the My First Bitcoin Diploma where you can win a hardware wallet or seed phrase tool that are being supplied by our awesome partners, Seed Signer, which is a free open source software, hardware and software seed signing device, which means you can keep your keys off the internet completely, which is really important for security. Next, we have CryptoTag, which is a physical seed signer, seed phrase saving tool. And I'll go through the websites in just a moment. And then we have Shift Crypto Bitbox 2.0, which is also a a hardware wallet. So let's have a quick look at their websites. Seed Signer. I've actually, damn it, I was meant to have it. Nicki's going to grab it for us. Do it. It's in the cupboard on the right-hand side, halfway. I'm going to show you the physical Seed Signer. I have a Bitcoin Orange one, which I'm really excited about. This is free, open source hardware and software. Anybody can build one of these with any hardware that they've got lying around and load it onto their system. Right, the CryptoTag, this is a seed. They've got a number of different seed phrase tools in here. Basically, it's designed to allow you to work with multiple setups, and they also integrate with other wallets and hardware devices as well. We're going to be giving away some of each of these devices. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting us with these, or the partners for supporting us with this. Okie dokie. Thank you, Nicki. And then we have the hardware wallet, Bitbox 02, Swiss made. This one is one that you can actually plug into your device and do all of your seed signing and wallet creation there. This is how you basically go and back up your wallet without putting it on the internet. And this is a really important thing to learn how to do, which we will learn how to do and do it as a group in the later on in the diploma.
Yep.
All right, so let's jump back to the Seed Signer one, and we bought one of these. So we actually bought this. It came down in our last care package. Thank you very much to everybody who helped us with that. And it's pretty cool. It's got a little screen. It's got a little joystick on it. It's got some buttons. None of this really means anything to anybody, but you will need a SD card for one of these. I've got one lying around upstairs. I haven't had a chance to play with it. It's got a camera on it. It's got a really cool Seed Signer logo on the back. He's developing, or they, I should say, they're developing a whole heap of different versions at the moment, which is really exciting and cool.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, got all my like memory cards and stuff here. So we really appreciate everybody who's helping us with that and being part of this project, because we're just doing this out of the curiosity of our own hearts.
Yeah.
And just so you know, this is the My First Bitcoin Diploma t-shirt. Well, it's not a Diploma t-shirt, but this is designed by Ronnie. Shout out to Ronnie. Ronnie makes lots of cool t-shirt designs. You can order them. Any proceeds go to helping their cause to actually help people learn for free here in El Salvador.
And he's just done some new t-shirts too, so there's some
Is
quite
he?
cool new t-shirt designs. You know, have you seen them wearing them?
Which ones?
Rockets.
Oh, the rocket ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rocket ones are very cool.
Very cool.
Oh, yeah. They do monthly meetups here, and they've got one tomorrow night. We'll be there.
Okay.
All right.
Let's keep moving.
Next step. Okay. We're going to go back to last week. Now, we have gone and compiled this information into a PDF, and there is a link in the description down below all ready for you to download.
Yes.
So we're going to, basically, it's the same thing. We got the numbers wrong.
Yeah.
And it's great that this has sort of happened, because there was actually a few things which we picked up in the diploma. I did it based on the way I read it, which wasn't necessarily the right way to do it. So this is a step-by-step breakdown, but what we're going to do is we're going to come down to the grid, because I like this table a lot. And oh, sorry, you guys can't see this. I'm going to show you so you can see it. It's not updating. Right, one moment. I'm just going to switch it to that one for a moment, and I'm going to fix this one.
Okay.
Whoop, got the wrong brave. Brave.
Right.
Brave,
Nothing
baby,
good?
brave. All right.
Okay. So so we're just going to go through. We're actually going to go through the graph, because it's as James said, it's just easier to read and to go through. But what you might remember is we had a person who deposits $100,000 into a new bank.
They won the lottery.
Yeah. So the bank had no deposit. So it's a new bank. So the deposit, they deposited $100,000 into the bank. Now the reserves that the bank needed to keep was 10%. So of course they had to keep 10,000 as their reserves. Now another person comes in and wants to borrow money from the bank. Okay, so they want to borrow as much as the bank will lend them, because they want to put a deposit down onto a house. So $100,000 was deposit. The bank has to keep 10%, so they were able to lend out $90,000. They still have their 10% or 10,000 in reserves, and so that person goes off and puts a deposit down on a house. Then the property owner comes into the bank and deposits the $90,000. Luckily, they bank in the same bank in this scenario.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's something to take into consideration. This is all happening in the same bank.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they deposit $90,000 into the bank. Now, of course, the bank has to keep 10% reserves of that $90,000. So they've already got $10,000 in the reserves, plus they're going to add a $9,000 from the $90,000, which is 10%. So they're going to now have to keep $19,000 in their reserves. Okay, and the total deposit so far into the bank is $190,000. So then another person comes into the bank and they want to borrow some money. And of course, the bank has to keep the $19,000 in reserves.
And this is where we actually did it wrong last week. So the way it was worded, we had thought we could draw upon a lot more than we could, and we couldn't.
No.
So we're only drawing on 10% of the new deposit, 90% of the new deposit. So we're going to draw $81,000 to go and buy some cool artwork.
Yes. So the full amount that they were allowed to borrow was $81,000. So they go to the art gallery and purchase the art, and they pay the full $81,000.
Yep.
So the art gallery now comes back to the same bank, because this is obviously a great bank. So everyone's enjoying the new bank, and goes and deposits the $81,000 into the bank. So the bank now has to keep 10% of the $81,000 as their reserves, And so they've got the 19,000 already in reserves plus 8,100 equals 27,100 as their reserves. So the full amount of deposits in the bank is 271,000, and they have to keep 27,100. It's really interesting to see how from $100,000, all of a sudden they've been able to lend out so much more.
Well, they've actually, from $100,000, then they've now got assets worth $300,000. So they got the $27,000 of reserves and the $270,000 of deposits, which was never, it's new money they've created. So they've created an extra $200,000 of deposits in the bank. I mean, what we did last week, I mean, technically banks are doing that anyway.
Yes, yeah. So it just shows how much the circulation of money can increase.
And quickly
by what the banks do. Okay, so that's that. You can, as James said, download the PDF. It is in the link is in our description. So let's get into chapter 4.
So just so you know that, and I need to refresh this because it seems to freeze when we start it. It all works beforehand, and then it seems to freeze when we push go live. So I'm just going to restart this window. There and window. Okay. All right. Chapter 4. The future is decentralized, empowering communities and individuals. Now, we do read through these ahead of time. And one thing that we've definitely noticed is some of the content actually it would be better if it was shuffled around a little bit. And we've also got some side notes from the team at My First Bitcoin, and we're going to read through those as we come up to them. So this one's made up of a number of different chapters or sections inside this chapter. 4, from crisis to innovation, the cypherpunks and the creation of a decentralized digital currency. 4.1, abuse of centralization, centralized systems, counting the middlemen, a look at the intermediaries in a credit card transaction. 4.2, a powerful tool for overcoming the limitations of centralization. 4.2.1, we're doing an exercise that it's not a great practical exercise for us online, and it's broken down in the next section. 4.3, transactions are just agreements to trade. I think that this could be expanded upon, but we'll get there. 4.3.1, to trust or not to trust. 4.3.2, let's swap trust for rules. And that is where the Bitcoin term verify, don't trust comes from. And unlocking the power of blockchain and technology, revolutionizing the future. And this is basically the last one before we really get into the nuts and bolts of Bitcoin.
Okay, we'll start from here. Chapter 4, from crisis to innovation, the cyberpunks and the creation of the decentralized digital currency. Before the creation of Bitcoin, people were searching for ways to address the problems of traditional finance, such as fraud, corruption, and the lack of trust in financial institutions. These issues were made even more pressing by the global financial crisis in 2008. In response, a group of tech-savvy, forward-thinking individuals, known as the cyberpunks, set out to create a digital currency that could be used for online transactions without the need for intermediaries like the banks. The cypherpunks were rebels and visionaries who believed in the power of technology to bring about positive change and to challenge traditional power structures. Many of them were involved in activism and civil liberties issues, and they were united by a shared passion for technology and the desire to use it to shape the future.
The reason I actually point out the cypherpunks thing is because there's a small distinction there. A lot of people might think cyberpunks as in like a technical punk, but they are cypherpunks, which they are people who are actually working with encryption.
Okay.
Just a little piece of historical information there.
And so they set out to create Bitcoin, a digital currency that will revolutionize the way we think about money and financial transactions. To do this, they needed to find a way to record transactions that was more secure and transparent than traditional centralized ledger systems. Why did they feel this way?
I'm going to read out the yellow information box. Question: how can individuals regain their financial self-sovereignty? So just at the moment, people don't have self-sovereignty of their finances when there's a centralized system that is busy debasing everybody's value at the moment. They're literally stealing from people. So the answer, the cypherpunks movement aims to create a new financial system that respects individuals' security, privacy, and freedom as a solution to regain financial self-sovereignty. And a lot of people might think that this is an impossible task, but here we go. 4.1, absence of centralization. Centralized systems. Centralization of power often leads to corruption, which can result in the mismanagement of resources, including financial resources, which we saw in the earlier chapters where you see kings, for example, busy debasing their financial monetary system by mixing metals and things like that. This can disproportionately affect those lower in the hierarchy and without as much influence or power, causing them to bear the greatest burden of the consequences of corruption and mismanagement. The modern fiat system is characterized by centralization of control with a small group of banks and other financial institutions holding significant weight over the economy. A centralized system can be thought of as a tree with a single trunk. The trunk represents the central authority or point of control, and the branches represent the various parts of the system that are controlled by the central authority. In this analogy, the tree is vulnerable if the trunk is damaged or diseased because the entire tree relies on the trunk for support. There are many drawbacks to centralized systems, including vulnerability. A centralized system relies on a single point, so if that point fails, the whole system can fail. Control and power. Those in control of centralized systems have a lot of power and influence over how they work. Inefficiency and intermediaries. Centralized systems often use intermediaries, which can make them slow and add extra costs. Lack of autonomy. People may not be able to make their own financial decisions. Censorship and restriction. There is a risk of being blocked or restricted from accessing certain financial resources in centralized systems. Scaling challenges. Centralized systems may struggle to keep up with increasing demand for financial services and resources. And today, a large part of the world is unbanked because they don't cater for those people due to centralized systems needing so much work. Security risks. Centralized systems can have weaknesses that hackers can use to gain access or cause damage. Lack of transparency and trust. It can be hard to understand how centralized systems work and to make informed decisions about them because they may not be transparent or trustworthy. Now, where was our first note?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
All right.
Okay. 4.1.2, counting the middlemen, a look at the intermediaries in the credit card transaction. Modern banking, simple. Modern banking, simple. Right. Take something as seemingly simple as buying a hamburger with a credit card. At first glance, it may seem undemanding and harmless. But if we break down the steps and see the intermediaries involved, you might be surprised at what we discover. Are there inconveniences, inefficiencies, maybe even hidden dangers lurking in the shadows? Let's find out.
So they've got a beautiful table here, and they've also got some nice pretty images. They're pretty much the same thing. They're slightly different in wording, but we're going to jump down to the pretty images because, well, we can fit them both in there, but we're going to read the pretty images. So,
okay. So step one, the transaction. So you go to McDonald's and order a hamburger using your Citi MasterCard. Okay, so the card holder presents a credit card to the merchant as payment. Step two, the merchant sends the transaction details, so its payment to its payment processor. And then step three, the payment processor. The processor relays the transaction data to the card network. Step four, the credit card network sends an authorization request to the issuing bank. Step five, issuing bank, verifies the card details, checks for available funds, and sends its response, approval, or decline to the card network. Step 6, credit card network, sends the issuer's response to the merchant's payment processor. Step 7, payment processor, relays the issuer's response to the merchant. And step 8, the merchant and the card holder complete the transaction. So it's all to buy one hamburger and you get to receive your hamburger.
So it's actually quite a detailed process with a lot of different people in between. You've got a lot of different technology providers, and you've got a lot of different people who want to verify that the transaction happens because they want to make sure that they get A, their fees, and B, they don't get ripped off with a transaction that somebody's trying to fake.
Okay, so at this point, no actual funds have changed hands, except perhaps a small authorization fee. The transaction only exists on paper. McDonald's need to close or batch out its sales for the day, and the closing process might look like this. So 1, McDonald's terminal or point of sale system sends the day transactions to the processor. 2, the processor then sends the transaction information to MasterCard. 3, MasterCard sends the transactions to Citibank. 4, Citibank confirms the authorizations, holds back their interchange fees. There are over 900 possible fee codes in North America, and transfers the funds back to MasterCard. 5, MasterCard takes its assessment fee and sends the funds to the processor. 6, the processor takes its cut as set out in the merchant agreement and deposits funds to McDonald's bank account. So that's 3 different fees that are coming out.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. In New Zealand, credit cards are not as popular as North America. We do a lot more debit cards. And still, what have we got in between there? We definitely have a point of sale system. I think it's between, so you got the point of sale you got the merchant, the point of sale hardware. There may be a transaction layer in between. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Sometimes the banks do it directly. Yeah, and then you actually have interbank confirmations in New Zealand as well.
Yeah. So who do you think paid for the fees? Of course you. But did anybody inform you of this? Oh no, they were hidden in the cost of the hamburger. And all of this happens, believe it or not, because we rely on centralization. The modern banking world comes up with various risks, including accidental double swipes, credit card fraud, human and computer errors, and potential hacks.
So we've actually got an image here disguising inflation, and it may seem a little bit odd and irrelevant at this point, but what we think it's actually referring to is talking about the hidden cost inside the hamburger, and they're hiding the fees in there, which I guess with cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin in particular, the fees are normally on top of the transaction, not inside the transaction.
Yeah.
So with Bitcoin, when you make a transaction, it will be for 1,000 sats plus the network fee. With fiat currency, they're saying it's $1, including the network fee. So if their fees are increasing, what they're saying here is that they will hide those fees by doing something called shrinkflation, where you will actually get a smaller hamburger for your dollar. And we actually experienced that last night at dinner. Yes. We've been to 2 different restaurants, very similar prices of hamburgers, 2 very different qualities of hamburgers. It was quite interesting, but they did it in different ways. One had better bread than the other one, but the other one had a better meat patty than the other one. Deterioration, reduced quality of ingredients, and that's also something we kind of saw last night, where they've given a better quality burger bun but a lower quality meat, and the other one's given a better quality meat but a lower quality burger bun. And so that deterioration is quite interesting. And then just generally increasing the prices as well to cover costs. That happens as well. All right, so the future is decentralized, empowering communities. A powerful tool for overcoming the limitations of centralization. Decentralized systems, on the other hand, can be thought of as a forest. Each tree represents an independent participant, and the forest represents the overall system. In this analogy, the forest is more resilient than an individual tree because it does not rely on a single point of failure. If one tree is damaged or diseased, the rest of the forest can continue to thrive. The trees in the forest share the ground, the nutrients, the sun, and the rain. Decentralized systems. So we've actually got a note here, which I'm going to read just after I do this piece. Decentralized systems like communities, networks, and forests function best when there is a diverse group of individuals working together rather than a single central authority dictating all the rules. And we've got some notes here from My First Bitcoin team. In this part, we're talking about the difference between a centralization and decentralization situation. We think it would be a good idea to, one moment. Sorry, I'm just going to, so basically what's happened here is that we want to highlight that the power shift that's happening in a human society. So the tree example is excellent in my mind. I found it very useful to think about how the centralized and decentralized network happens. And I think at the very end here, it's probably the most powerful statement, which is that you've got a diverse group of individuals, because not everybody likes the same flavored ice cream. Not everybody even wants ice cream. Some people want to have something else. And having that diversity is actually really good because, for example, a forest of trees, if all the trees are the same clone, which actually happens in New Zealand with intensive farming of forests, if one gets a disease, they all start to collapse. So when you've got diversity of people, it will make sure that your forest of people will be more resilient. And then with the single central authority system, where you've got basically one person or a small group of people at the top, they're all going to have a very similar idea of how they see the world, their likes and dislikes, and they're going to then enforce that upon everybody else. And the people who don't like ice cream might not be happy. So hopefully that makes sense and explains why the centralized versus decentralized nature of things can be more resilient and better for humans and trade.
Now I'm going to ask you a question
Yes.
in regards to this. So we've got the picture of the trees and we've got the picture of, and I'm guessing like the little computers or the little nodes. So are they sort of saying that the trees are like little nodes?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you. That is largely what they're trying to represent there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep,
so because then we've got the light bulb moment. So a network is a group of nodes that are connected to each other in the same way. This connection allows the devices to exchange information and communicate with each other. So a node is a computer connected to a network that can share and or receive information and communicate with the other nodes. And it's something that James has been working on at the moment with a group of, or a couple of other guys, and they've actually setting up their own node group.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting because you quickly learn how the Lightning Network works, and there's some excellent visualizations out there that show you how the Lightning Network is connected, like this computer picture up in the top right-hand corner here. You get a live visualization of the nodes that are and are not connected to each other. And in our group, we talk about that because we open something called a channel, which allows each node to talk to each other through the channel, which is quite interesting. Advantages of a decentralized system. So I'm just going to point out this picture on the right-hand side because I believe that this picture, in my mind, actually belongs further down. So this is a distributed ledger technology, which is basically what the blockchain or the distributed system is, and it's going to make more sense further down, so we may come back to the picture, but we're going to leave it because I don't think it's relevant to these points. Advantages of a decentralized system. It is more resilient and reliable because there is no single point of failure. If one part of the system goes down, the rest can continue to operate. With the right encryption, and that was the cypherpunk part, decentralization is more secure because there is no central point of control that can be targeted by hackers. So the encryption provides security by making sure the data is more private. It can help you become sovereign, meaning that you'll have more control and autonomy over your own assets and decisions rather than relying on a central authority. Where this is highlighted right now is the banks in America and around Europe that are busy closing their doors and saying, actually, your money is not your money, it's ours, and you're not having it back. That's different with Bitcoin when you hold it in your own keys. When you put Bitcoin in your own wallet that you control, and we'll get to that later on in the chapters, no one can go and turn that off on you. You will still be able to do transactions on the network, which is huge. They can be more transparent because all nodes have access to the same information and can see what is happening in the system. They can be permissionless, meaning that anyone can join or participate in the system without needing permission from a central authority. And that's super powerful as well. Like, for example, banks close a lot. Like, just generally, like, they're only open from 9 until 4 o'clock in New Zealand, I think it is, and maybe 5.5 days.
Yeah, you will be lucky on a Saturday now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some only in malls will be open on a Saturday. Yeah.
So you don't need permission. Like in a bank at the moment, you need permission to go in when they're open to do a transaction. But Bitcoin, you can do a transaction any day or time on the network as long as you got a phone and the internet, even without the internet sometimes. They can be limitless, meaning that there is no predetermined limit on the number of nodes that can join the system. Each node has equal opportunities to contribute and influence the network, making it a more democratic and inclusive structure. Participants can also choose to use pseudonyms or nicknames to protect their privacy and security, which can make the system more resilient to censorship and attacks. So there are ways to actually protect your information on the Bitcoin network, even though a lot of the information is publicly available.
So a light bulb, decentralized scarcity is often seen as a good thing for money because it prevents inflation and manipulation by a central authority.
However, decentralized systems also have their challenges and limitations. Now, we've got some notes here to expand on this because we believe that things have evolved since this was potentially written, or there's a lot of things have become to light when they've been writing this. So decentralized systems may require more work to get all the connected devices, nodes, to agree and work together. Decentralized systems may also be more at risk for trouble caused by bad actors or devices, malicious nodes that could harm the network. Now, this last point is something that they would like us to just talk about, mainly because the Bitcoin network and the cypherpunks that have built it have actually been very focused on building a system to mitigate this exact problem. And that's what the encryption was all about, was basically making sure that it was harder for these bad actors to behave in a way where they could really mess up the network. So the more nodes that ended up joining the network, the harder it became for these malicious nodes to do things that upset it. And I just want to make sure I've... So there's a mechanism built into the Bitcoin network called 51% consensus. And so if some of these malicious nodes come into the network and they try and do something that is, well, it would obviously be malicious, I think, or even if people just don't agree, it doesn't have to be malicious, but even if people don't agree, you would need 51% of the nodes to agree upon that. Now, if you don't agree upon that, you just don't participate. And that allows the network to decide if they do or don't like the behavior of some of the other nodes. So I think what the point is that the way that the Bitcoin system works, especially with, I think, proof of work opposed to proof of stake, it gives the individual nodes more power to reduce this risk of trouble being caused by bad actors. All right.
Okay, so the class exercise we're not going to do, but I'll just read the first chapter, first paragraph on this, because it's about decentralization, consensus game with bad actors. So in a decentralized network, consensus refers to the process of reaching agreement among the members of the network. This can present difficulties as there is no central authority to make decisions or resolve conflicts. Instead, decisions must be made through a process of negotiation and compromise among the members of the organisation. And if we go up through, and just remember, in a decentralised system, you cannot simply trust the answer of other group members. You must verify the accuracy of information and come to a consensus through discussion and collaboration. And that's what you're sort of saying with the nodes.
Yep. Correct.
Okay.
And correct.
Right. Okay. And I think with the class exercise that we've just missed, a lot of it is actually explained in this 4.3, which we're going to go through now. So 4.3, transactions are just agreements to trade. Welcome to the decentralized Micronesia island of Yap. It is a remote but fascinating because people use a special kind of currency called the rye stones. A feature that makes them a great form of money is their scarcity. The total number of rye stones is limited, which means that they cannot be easily reproduced or inflated like fiat currencies. This fixed supply helps to maintain the purchasing power of the rye stones over time and makes them a reliable store of value. These rye stones are like giant coins that are used to purchase stuff on the island. The thing is, they can weigh a ton. Rye stones can actually crush you, so they're a bit impractical to carry around. So how then can people conveniently use rye stones as mediums of exchange without having to physically take them from one place to another? 4.3, to trust, do you want to do it? Yeah.
Okay. To trust or not to trust. While the US... Oh, wow. Okay. Sorry, guys. I don't know why this keeps freezing on us. This is annoying me a little bit. One moment.
Oh, shall I keep reading?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Okay. To trust or not to trust. While the US dollar is now the official currency of Yap Island, rye stones still are a type of money. Unlike the dollars, the rye stones on Yap Island are not controlled by a single authority or stored in banks. Instead, the transactions are based on oral history and trust, with people keeping track of their own records of who owns which stones. This system has both benefits and drawbacks. On the one hand, it allows for a certain degree of independence from one central authority. On the other hand, it can also lead to disagreements and potential for cheating. And so why is this? Yep, you can go.
Okay. Decentralization is easy to achieve in small groups. Life is simple as there are fewer people to coordinate. It is often possible for everyone to have a say in decision-making processes and for those decisions to be implemented relatively quickly. As a group gets larger, it becomes more difficult to reach an agreement and for decisions to be implemented effectively. All right, there's a lot of reading. Hang on, guys. Let's go. Imagine that you have a field full of ripe corn that needs to be harvested. You need some help. So you approach your neighbor, Raquel, and offer her a deal. If she helps you harvest the corn, you will give her a 10 kg stone in exchange. Raquel agrees. And for the next day, she works alongside you in the fields, helping to gather the corn and bring it in. At the end of the day, you both shake hands, and instead of physically handing over the stone, you simply show her that her payment, the rye stone, is in your backyard. From that point on, you both agree that the stone now belongs to Raquel. This type of transaction, where no currency actually is handed from one individual to the other, is a form of payment. But instead of a physical object, it is a symbol of value. Is common on Yap Island and has been used for centuries as a form of currency. 5 years later, you decide to try and claim the rye stone as your own. You present evidence to the community that the stone has been passed down through your family for generations and that you are the rightful owner. However, Raquel remembers the agreement that you both made and provided evidence by bringing witnesses of the exchange to give a statement. She argues that the stone rightfully belongs to her, as it was given to her in exchange for the help with the harvest. Some members of the community might agree with your claim, citing the tradition and history of your family's ownership of the stone. However, others might side with Raquel, pointing to the agreement that was made and the fact that the stone has been in her possession, figuratively speaking, for 5 years without any objections from other members of the community. Factors that might be considered include the history and tradition of ownership, the terms of the agreement between you and Raquel, and any relevant evidence or arguments. Not a very solid solution, is it? And they've actually got this pretty cool little cartoon on the right-hand side there. It's one of those optical illusion drawings where you've got one guy's looking at the optical illusion and sees 4 posts of wood. The other guy's looking at it going, no, there's only 3. And this is unfortunately how our minds seem to work over time and memory. I know that my memory is probably...
Diesel can't hear us.
Not as good as it should be. Is that everybody that can't hear us or just Diesel? Diesel, if you can't hear us, then it may just be your issue. If anyone else is having that problem, please let us know. Okay. So how can thousands of strangers all agree on one truth without anyone having the final say? This is something that has puzzled people for a long time, and it's an important question to consider. It turns out that the internet has helped us find a solution to this problem. The solution is called the blockchain.
Okay.
And I just want to check the notes because I know that there was a note about the blockchain, which I do want to... the end of 4.3.
Okay. So let's swap trust for rules. Imagine you and your friends are in a group chat where you can buy and sell things with each other. Every time a purchase is made, it's recorded in a shared document for everyone to see, and each person's balance is updated. This chat uses a digital ledger to keep track of all the transactions that have happened. The ledger is like a record book that everyone can see. In a decentralized system like this, all the participants have a copy of the ledger. This makes it hard for any one person or group to change any information without being noticed. It's like a security measure to make sure that the records are accurate and no one can cheat. This is similar to how a blockchain works. Instead of relying on personal relationships and subject interpretation of trust, a decentralized system can operate effectively if it is based on a set of clear, transparent rules that everyone agrees to follow. This way, decisions can be made and conflicts can be resolved in a fair and objective manner without relying on the trust of individual parties. It might not be as romantic as relying on trust, but it's a much more reliable way to ensure that a centralized system operates smoothly. So if Yap Island had a set of unbreakable rules and a written record of all transactions between its members, the conflict between you and Raquel could have been avoided. These rules and records would have made it clear to all members of the village what their rights and responsibilities were. But is it that simple? Not really. There was a lot of trial and error before blockchain technology was actually a success. So what are the exact rules that must be followed? Who makes these rules? Why will people want to follow the rules? How do rules get distributed across the network? What will happen if someone breaks the rules? How can the rules be changed or updated later? How will the rules be enforced to make sure everyone follows them? And how can the rules be made clear and easy to find for everyone in the system?
Okay, so there's a really interesting discussion that's been raised here that I think my first Bitcoin team really want to make a distinction on it. So the blockchain technology is actually an old technology. It's been around for a while. So a distributed ledger is not a new idea. And distributed ledgers that are now encrypted are a very big improvement. But let's take it to another level. A lot of people have gone and copied what's happening with Bitcoin, such as Ethereum and other chains, and banks, for example. So Ethereum and CBDCs, or central bank digital currencies, they have also gone and used a blockchain. And that's great. But you need to remember that even though they're using blockchain technology, they're not all equal. The Bitcoin blockchain technology is being used in a peer-to-peer decentralized fashion. Ethereum and central bank digital currencies are using blockchain technology, and they're quietly writing off the name of Bitcoin when you think about it and all of its advantages, and trying to mislead people into thinking it's the same or very similar, but even better. Yet it's being re-centralized by these entities, which then gives a small group of people a lot of control. And that is why it's really important when people say, oh, it's blockchain technology, not to be fooled into thinking that it's Bitcoin. And I think a really good example recently, I had a discussion with my father, and he said, isn't Ethereum built on top of Bitcoin? Because he was under the impression that because Ethereum was blockchain technology, it was built on top of Bitcoin. And it's quite interesting to hear what people think blockchain is. My point here is not all blockchain technology is equal, because not all of it is used and implemented in the same way as Bitcoin. And there's few out there that use it the way as Bitcoin does, if pretty much no others. And that is in a peer-to-peer decentralized method, which is by the people for the people, more so than any of the other blockchain technologies out there. You think? Was that well-winded? Hopefully that makes sense. Yes. Hopefully I get the message across. And I think it's a really good point that's being raised in the document here. All right. Okay. 4.4, unlocking the power of blockchain, a technology revolutionizing the future. Despite numerous setbacks, one very enigmatic person, or a group of people known as Satoshi Nakamoto, finally found the key to developing a game-changer methodology for the world of trade and finance. This masterpiece made it incredibly easy to track and verify transcriptions, streamlining the process of exchanging money, goods, and other assets. With its innovative approach and advanced technology, this system revolutionized the way we think about economic transactions, making them faster, safer, and more efficient than ever before.
A light bulb moment. A blockchain is a decentralized digital ledger that securely records and verifies all transactions across multiple computers in a transparent manner.
Now, there was an image that I pointed out earlier of the decentralized ledger. I think that would be more appropriate here.
Yeah.
So I'll whip back up to it just to find it here so you know what I'm talking about. So
this one here.
This image here, distributed ledger technology. I think that this image is a lot more, I understand kind of why it's there, but I feel like this is talking to the image more than it was up there. A blockchain is like a historical book. Each page or block has a list of things that happened, transactions. As more things happen, we need to add new pages, blocks, to the book. Anyone can read the book for free, but only special helpers, known as miners, can add new pages. They, the miners, make sure that what's written is true. Once something is written in the book, it can't be changed or erased. It's a permanent record of all the transactions that have happened on the blockchain in the past. Now, there's actually a consensus mechanism that happens. So there's that's a little more detailed than maybe what we need to cover here. But basically, you could have two different transactions happening in two different places around the world, and the decentralized ledgers will eventually come together and agree upon these transactions. So the technology is actually quite clever in the way that it also makes sure that the different transactions that are happening on the network at the time all come together and make sense. It's very clever. A blockchain does not have a central authority like an author, a publisher, or an editor that can edit, delete, or change the information recorded in it. Hence, it's considered a more secure and reliable method of record keeping compared to a traditional central database.
Right, do we want to do that?
The image first.
The image, yeah.
So,
yeah, we've got what is a blockchain. So all records of actions on the blockchain are called transactions. So you can sort of see that you've got the blocks or in the image connected with the chain. There's a safe, structured, accessible, and transaction records.
There are things that are available which are called block explorers. And one of the best ones at the moment is called mempool, mempool.space, I believe it is. And mempool.space it's very clever. It gives you a visual representation of what's happening on the blockchain right now. And it also gives you the ability to look at all the transactions in the past in great detail as well, which is really cool.
It helps when you're definitely when you're trying to get cash out of the cheaper machine.
That's how we use it.
How we use it. Okay, another light bulb. If the helpers, the miners, are not in consensus about the validity of the pages, blocks, they will be rejected and will not be added to the blockchain.
And that's sort of where I'm talking about different miners putting blocks together at a different time. And it's quite a complex process, but we're not going to go into that detail. But all I'm trying to suggest is this oversimplifies it, and the magic that's actually happening in the background is really impressive to make sure that all these transactions happen and are recorded in a consecutive order, and that you can reference it at any stage later on. But in order to understand the blockchain, we have to get a sense of the context in which it exists. While many feel that the blockchain has uses as an independent innovation, and I think they're suggesting to central bank digital currencies and Ethereum, its true founding role is singular: to create an immutable ledger so that a decentralized, trustless form of money exists. To understand the blockchain, we need to understand Bitcoin as a whole. And that is the end of chapter 4. And that's a lot faster than the other ones, which is great. This is where it starts to get really interesting, especially for me. I'm quite excited about where we're about to go to next. So hopefully all of that makes sense. We're going to go through the comments that have been popping up in the chat. It looks like there's been a lot of chit chat, just to make sure that we haven't missed anything that's been going on in there.
Yeah.
So let's have a look. A lot of chit chat. So a lot of hello from everybody. Johnny Boy, hello, my European Salvadoran family. Hope you guys are well and enjoying the stay in my beautiful country that carry in my heart every day for 47 years out of my beautiful, magical Pulgastio. It's a new word for me. Thank you, Johnny Boy. It's a privilege to be here and hang out and be part of this Bitcoin revolution and everything else that Bukele's doing, because he's making some waves.
He is.
Yeah. Nicki and James, hello. Where are you from? So Diesel, increased transparency, security, resilience, and removal of central authority control, leading to more democratic and innovative systems. Yep, that's what Bitcoin is all about. And it's the purest form that we've got so far. It's the original and it's the purest in terms of a lot of the cryptocurrencies that are available right now. It's also divisible. So that's a good point for anybody who's not sure. One Bitcoin is broken down into, I think it's 100 million Satoshis. So where a dollar has cents, Bitcoin has Satoshis, which are fractions of a Bitcoin. And consensus means a general agreement among a group of people or participants. Yes, correct. And that is where I'm talking about the blockchain and the different miners and blocks coming together and coming to a consensus. And sometimes if a different, sometimes you can get multiple chains formed, and from those multiple chains, they work out which one to go with. And that's also to stop people from attacking the network and dealing with that. Diesel, Australia, born in New Zealand. Yeah, good to see you, mate. Awesome. John, okay.
Yeah, so it's chat.
Some people from Ireland, which is awesome.
No, John's just saying he was born
in Ireland. Yeah, okay. Aiming for El Salvador. Yep. You guys are welcome when you come. Gary Gensler is freezing their channel. Yeah, good old Gary. Yeah, don't know if I trust old Gary. All right, freezing. Hi, sound is working. No problem. Distributed ledger technology that records transactions in a secure and transparent and immutable way.
Yep.
And if people don't know what a ledger is, it's bookkeeping. Yeah, that is a very oversimplified version. It is keeping track of all the transactions that happen, and anybody can actually go in and see which account has paid how much to which account.
Absolutely.
But you don't know who, so it's quite impressive.
So if there's any questions in regards to this channel, please let us know or type them in.
Yep.
And
I'm just quickly checking the Rumble account as well. John Byrne's been over there. Thanks, John. We always appreciate John popping over to say hi, just in case anybody's there. Yeah. He's basically like an in-house moderator now. It's pretty cool, which is really awesome. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Thank you for coming along to week 4. We're getting pretty close to the hour now, which is awesome. So we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Just remember that in the future, there's going to be updated versions of this manual, and these guys are working really hard to make this as accurate as possible and informative and simple as possible. And this team, they are supported by donations, and they're actually quite particular about who funds them. Some people come along and offer to fund them, but of course conditions come with a lot of that funding, and they're very true to their values, which is awesome. So I believe that we actually have a My First Bitcoin link and donation link in the description down below. We also have their Geyser campaign in the link down below. The funds that go in there are normally used to help new Diploma people do their transactions and get their diplomas. So they get funding for operations in one way, and then donations like that normally go to helping people get educated. They go to schools, they do private lessons, and they are expanding worldwide. So these guys, I mean, if you guys believe in Bitcoin and you want to see this flourish, share.
Yeah,
it's free, which is amazing.
Right. And if you haven't signed in on our webpage to do the diploma with us, or that you're coming along with us on a Wednesday night, please sign up, because you do go into the draw to win either a Seed Signer, Crypto Tag, or the BitBox 2, which is another hardware wallet. So we're really so grateful for these partners coming on board for our Wednesday week to join in. It's really exciting.
Yes. These guys, it's awesome. Thank you for coming along. They're going to give away a device. So if you want to play with a hardware device, make sure you are on our email list.
Yeah.
And come along to these sessions so you learn how to use it. And that's largely it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Diesel, you got any comments on the latest news? Really depends on what you're talking about, but it's not really tonight. It's not really the night we dive into it.
It's not really the night, but what I'm going to, we're in El Salvador. We're doing the Bitcoin Diploma. It's being done by the group here in El Salvador. What I'm going to throw out there in regards to that is Bukele. He's just gone and put out another signal to the world that he wants brains to come to El Salvador, be part of what is happening here. To give you an idea, the Salvadoran government is taking 1,500 teachers from all over the country, from all of as many schools as it can, and it's going to train them on this diploma so they can then go back to the school and teach this diploma in each individual school.
Yeah.
So I noticed you mentioned banks in the comments there, but this is how, if you want to talk about what's happening with the banks, it's irrelevant. We know where they're going. They basically, I don't know if you guys can hear that. Our neighbors are playing very loud music.
Yeah.
The banks are going to zero. That's just how a fiat system works. They're going to scramble and hold as many things as they can. This chapter just talked about sovereignty. And at the moment, when a bank closes its doors on you or it's whatever, shut for the day, you don't have access to your money. And the same thing goes for Bitcoin. If you have Bitcoin on an exchange, it's not your Bitcoin. It's the exchange's Bitcoin. And you need to get a wallet that you control. You don't have to go hardware wallet straight away. That is a hard step. You can get something like the Blue Wallet, or you can download the Electrum wallet onto your PC. You can generate your own keys, back them up. This is super important if you're going to put Bitcoin on there. Back them up into multiple places that are safe from fire and flood and things like that. And that's what the crypto tag is really good for. And get your Bitcoin off the exchange. Get it off Binance. Get it off Circle. Binance halted trading the other day, just as much as banks started shutting their doors. Coinbase halts trading regularly during bull runs, and we are potentially about to go into another bull run. So get your coins off these exchanges, and you never know when government's going to turn up. For example, Kraken is definitely under fire at the moment. They're one of my favorites, but they are under a lot of political pressure to actually conform. And I mean, someone could turn up and turn their servers off, and that becomes a problem, and the Bitcoin's not yours at that point. That's my rant. And I think we're going to leave it there.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
All right.
We appreciate you guys.
Yes, we really do.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week. We've got Monday, we've got our weekly live, Monday evening, and then Wednesday we are doing the week 5 of the diploma, which is great. They will be halfway through. How amazing.
Yeah, I know, halfway. It's gone pretty quickly.
It's going really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please share the playlist with anybody that you think could benefit. I know it's quite hard for people to get their head around doing this, but I don't know, maybe once you've done it, you can share how much value you got from it. Awesome.
All right. Hey, good night, everyone.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.